They do move and hurt.
Hey, fun fans, it's We Enjoy coming at you with a spared no expense Jurassic Park edition. That's going to be our main event this week, kicking off the Jurassic franchise on our way to Jurassic World Dominion. We are the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hello, everybody. How's it going for you?
You know, someone responded on Twitter or just chimed in on Twitter saying like, oh, yes, I'm so glad you guys are doing Jurassic Park. I've always wanted to hear your take, which is like our take.
We're going to take it down.
We're here to send that movie down in flames, the most overrated movie of all time. No, surprise, surprise, Lando in Disguise is a great fucking movie. A perfect movie? We've done a few perfect movies on this podcast. Not many, but, you know, I would say Out of Sight is a perfect movie for me. But Jurassic Park, despite the fact that, like, if you actually get into the nitty-grittiness of the story, there's not many things that happen aside from, you know, Dino Park gone amok, but that's all you need for a perfect movie. I love this movie so much. Eric and I have seen it countless times, including in the theaters when it came out because we're that old. Eric, are you excited to talk about John Hammond's Isla Nublar Jurassic Park?
I am. Did he ghost direct it? The real John Hammond?
No, but Richard Attenborough did.
Oh, okay. Steven, this is what because Steven Spielberg ghost directed Poltergeist, so Richard Hammond's like, now you'll see what it's like.
And then we got some we're recording this a little earlier in the week because Eric's got a busy week ahead. So we're recording this actually on Sunday, the week, you know, the beginning of the sun. For some people, Sunday is the beginning of the week on their calendars.
I mean, technically, it's the beginning of the week.
Technically, it is, but not for the work week, which is all bullshit and just a man-made capitalist construct. Anyway, so anything big that actually happens news-wise this week, we will not catch. But we did catch a few things that from the end of this past week after we just podcasted about Hustlers. So
especially because Friday was a notable like Friday bad news dump day. You know, that happens a lot. They like end of the week. They kind of they hope it'll get less coverage if they put out bad
it doesn't
news.
That never works, and all it does is it pisses off people who have to report on it after hours,
right? Or if they think they might get out early on a Friday and they don't.
But also when it comes to shows being canceled unceremoniously, that's kind of par for the course how these casts and creatives find out. Like, you could be on for like over 5 years at a show, and then all of a sudden everyone gets a group text that they're canceled. And because when the spotlight shines on you in Hollywood, it's very bright. And when it turns away, it's very quick and very brutal. So it doesn't matter what kind of working relationship they had with studios or the producers. It's kind of like everyone has that story of just being told in the worst or finding out in the worst way possible that their passion project, the show that they've devoted so much of their life to, is over.
It's just weird because so I used to really cover the network upfronts. And the reason I don't is twofold. A, I'm at a different outlet now, but B, the TV landscape has changed so much that they're just not as important, because 10 years ago, it was like network TV was still so much guiding everything.
And fall premieres were huge. And now it's not really a thing.
But the upfronts, which actually happened in a couple weeks, the lead into upfronts week is filled with these last minute anything, quote unquote, on the bubble. All these shows, the last minute decisions, are they getting renewed or canceled by the networks before they have to go to New York and tout them for the advertisers for the next season. So often like a Friday night going into upfront week would be like a million like crazy, like Scrubs just got renewed for season 9 and Dollhouse got a miracle season 2, but Sarah Connor Chronicles got canceled.
Yeah,
all this stuff
because and we've talked about this on this podcast and past on channel surfing too, for sure. Which is that like they literally have to figure out who's flying, buy tickets for people flying to New York.
And that also goes for the show, all the pilots that are waiting to hear if they got picked up. A lot of those decisions are made. And so it's like, are we bringing the entire new cast of this show to New York or not? We have to know tonight. All of which is to say, before we get into the news story we're hinting about here, this is actually 2 weeks before an upfront. So this decision was not one of those very last minute ones, it was a couple weeks before, even though it was still, a bubble scenario for the show.
But even a week or two ago, people were wondering about Legends of Tomorrow because
Yes.
CW was doing a lot of renewals at the time, and there were some conspicuous absences, Legends of Tomorrow being one of them.
Because CW for years has renewed everything.
Yeah.
Even if some of them come with the caveat of renewed for a final season. They'll just do the blanket renewal.
So DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which is one of the longest standing, besides the Flash, Arrowverse shows at this point at 7 seasons, will not be back for an 8th season. It's been canceled from what I understand on a cliffhanger. And it just won't come back. It had over 100 episodes. Yeah, I don't think it ran for as many episodes as like Arrow or Flash. I don't think
it did 22 episode seasons. Yeah.
Which was a huge reason why I kind of had to bail on the Arrowverse, where there were too many shows and they were running network seasons for the most part. And I just couldn't fit that into my life anymore. Like it was so much. I enjoyed it, but not to the extent where I just, it was undroppable for me. And those, as we are now years removed from like normal network seasons, aside from like, CBS and NBC procedurals, it's so like the fact that we used to watch 22 episode seasons sounds so outrageous. Like,
and multiple shows, like you said, like there was a point where I was watching at the time all 4 Arrowverse shows, which at the time were Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Legends, and only Legends wasn't doing a 22 episode season.
Yeah.
So that's like just committing to those 4 shows is like, whoa, that was a lot of your year.
It's like when you actually tell people how many hours a week wrestling is on, and they're flabbergasted, like how much that actually takes up of your life. And then, on top of that, possibly less surprising because of its the changing of its lead and so on. But Batwoman was canceled after 3 seasons, after the lead of the series left after the first season and was not recast, but a new lead actress stepped in. And which now only leaves The Flash, which is actually ending with its 9th season.
No, it's not officially. I mean, we assume it is.
It's not.
They've not officially said it's the final season.
All right. Well, The Flash can enter the Speed Force forever, apparently.
Yeah.
And Superman and Lois, which is still sort of a new show. It's season 2 at this point.
Yes. And also Superman and Lois. Have you seen any of it, Matt?
Yeah. I watched like a few episodes of the first season. Yeah.
It pointedly has, while technically part of the Arrowverse,
it's very separate.
And there was supposed to be, if COVID changed everything. I know that there was going to be a Batwoman, Superman and Lois crossover in the first season of Superman and Lois, but COVID changed a lot of things, and plus their lead actress on Batwoman left. But they've very pointedly had Superman and Lois be a different show, so it feels so different that it doesn't even feel like it's in the Arrowverse. So again, I do think The Flash is probably heading into its final season. But Batwoman, like that had a lot of turmoil just with changing the actress and everything. But Legends is the real notable one because 7 seasons, third longest because of Arrow, but third longest run of an Arrowverse show. And
with many people also calling it the stealth best show of the Arrowverse, right?
I think it certainly was the best one in recent years. It was the one I stuck with the longest of those old ones. And I didn't stop watching it because I didn't like it anymore. It was just like something that's got to give thing where I still would like to go back and finish the ones I didn't see. I think I really like how fun and weird that show got. But the fact that it just got unceremoniously canceled, very odd, not just for the Arrowverse, but for the CW as a network, because the CW had been so good about offering closure. And whether you were Nikita or iZombie or The 100, you got closure.
You got like a shortened final season. Yeah.
You got something. Yeah. And, we talked about the reasons that things are changing. Both, the entire landscape of TV has changed that we've talked about, but also the CW as a network is up for sale. And will no longer be an important component for Warner Brothers as a co-owner to create shows that they own and have make a lot of money off selling across the world beyond its CW life. And that won't be a factor anymore. So it's really unfortunate, I think, because it just means that Legends now is a 7-season show that if people watch on streaming doesn't have an ending,
Right.
That's always the sucky thing with a show that goes on that long.
And then Gotham Knights pilot, is it just a pilot they're filming, or has it been picked up for a season?
No, it hasn't been. They haven't committed to it. I mean, well, I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks.
Okay. Yeah, we will before upfronts, correct? Yeah. So Gotham Knights also is technically part of the Arrowverse. How connected
it wasn't part of the Arrowverse.
Is it? Is it just completely separate?
I think it is until it's. I think they have not committed to that being part of the Arrowverse because I don't think it had any connection.
I mean, honestly, what is left of the Arrowverse to sort of preserve at this point, right?
Yeah, it's like that's the point. Is like with the Flash and Superman and Lois, the only ones coming back, and Superman and Lois not even really trying to be that connected. The Flash is kind of the end of the era, and I was like, man, I hope the Flash. First of all, let's assume the next season is the last one. It seems certainly likely it is. I guess, it'd be nice if the Flash can offer maybe some closure on these 2 canceled shows. They had a bunch of characters guest star this past season. They did a crossover that had like Black Lightning and, the characters from the Green Arrow spinoff that didn't go to series showed up on that show and stuff. So there's ways to work it. Look, I haven't watched the Arrowverse in many years, but I used to watch a lot of it. And say what you will, it had major ups and downs, but it was a huge accomplishment. And I of course, it's one of those things where, and we do this with the movies too, where it's like, yes, there have been better DC things since the Arrowverse began, but I don't want that to be like, and it was worthless. It didn't do anything. Like it did a lot of things, and it made a lot of characters household names who people weren't into, and it did huge crossovers before anyone else was. It did the Crisis.
And who knows what it could have done if the DC films hadn't sort of like hamstrung them, you know what I mean? With the characters they wanted to use for movies, and so deemed that they had to kill them off. It loosened by the end, but
probably too late in the run. But yeah, like the Crisis crossover, which is the last big thing I watched, was ahead of the game with like a multiverse and being like, hey, we're going to bring back characters from canceled TV shows from years ago and Batman 89 and we're gonna they were doing stuff like that. So I do hope that the Flash maybe can provide some sort of extra closure on it.
Yeah, well, because it's like we said, what's left, Superman and Lois, not only is it not connected in any sort of story way, universe wise, they're still also in separate universes, so that makes sense in its own right, like why the Flash and
they're not, Matt, they're not.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah,
where's Superman and Lois?
Spoilers for the Crisis crossover, but it ended with their universes merging.
It all came together like peanut butter and chocolate.
It did.
Like the
Black
McDLT.
Lightning's universe came in, and Supergirl and Superman's. I will say before we move on, one last thing about this is, of course, people have been like, "Is there any way to save these shows? Can Netflix or HBO Max save these shows?" And here's where I'll say nothing is impossible, but I think it's too convoluted because of the weirdness of streaming rights and whatnot. Because here's how I'll try to explain this succinctly. I'm even saying that word right. All the CW shows that were before HBO Max launched, they still go to Netflix, including Legends of Tomorrow. And at some point when they end, I'm not quite clear, it might be up to 5 years later, they leave, like those rights finally dissipate, and then Warner Brothers gets them back to do with it what they will, including selling to themselves in HBO Max. So say Netflix saves Legends of Tomorrow. Say Netflix wanted to be like, yes, we'll order another season.
But then they'll lose the original run.
Well, at some point, how does that work? Right. Is like, how would that even work with the rights they have? And would they want to do that now? And then HBO Max has even less incentive to be like, yes, we'll make an 8th season of a show we don't have the first 7 seasons for and won't have the opportunity to have for a half decade or so. Again, I'm not sure the exact run of time. There's a lot of complications there. So I don't want to say there's zero hope, but it seems pretty unlikely given everything going on.
Maybe it can just exist in audio podcast form. How about that?
There you go. I will say with between comic books and the Flash as a series and other, I think, one way or another, hopefully there'll be closure in some form. We'll see.
I want to close out that news item and open up a new one, which is that John Watts, director of the Spider-Man Homecoming, the 3 Spider-Verse MCU movies, who was headed to direct the Fantastic Four movie, has dropped out of that project. And as reported, though who knows what the actual truth is, there was nothing sinister about it. No like creative differences, no tension or friction between parties. It was just he wanted a break from superhero-dom and is by all rights expected to come back for whatever Tom Holland's next Spider-Man project is. But that's a bummer. I was looking forward to his tonal take, sort of like weaving inside the Fantastic Four world.
Yeah, it's too bad. I do. It's look, but we've gotten friendly press releases hiding dark truths before. I don't think that is the case here. Them saying he kind of basically wants a break after directing 3 giant movies back to back to back, and maybe wants a superhero break, I think is probably truth to that. Especially, don't forget the Spider-Man movies were made on a way more accelerated time frame than most of the other MCU like mini franchises, and a lot of that seemingly came from Sony, who wanted these movies much quicker, including the fact that they didn't want to wait a year for Far From Home to come out after Endgame, and there was a little bit of a they had to acquiesce on that one, Marvel Studios. So yeah, he directed 3 giant movies within basically 6 or 7 years, even with the COVID delay. And I was talking to a friend of mine who said maybe something, there's more to this to do with the fact that they want him to do the next Spider-Man. And I thought maybe in so much as it's like the idea being you'll direct Fantastic Four and then you'll go right into the next Spider-Man movie, and him being like, maybe I don't. Right. Maybe I take a break, because again, we haven't had the official announcement of the next Spider-Man movie. I think that's all waiting for Tom Holland to have a new deal. But yeah, I think in this case, I don't think there is anything more sinister or any like giant, dispute. I could be wrong. But it seemed the way that even both sides put out like quotes, it seemed pretty damn friendly. It's too bad. And now, but the question becomes, who's going to direct? Look, at least we found this out well before casting or anything. You don't want this to be a situation like Fast X being the worst, but even Ant-Man, where they were weeks from production and they had to replace a director. Peyton Reed's name, of course, is coming up again because he almost directed a Fantastic Four movie decades ago and had a really fun pitch on it, and he is done with his Ant-Man trilogy. Who knows? But I'm sure we will find out, it's not too far in the future.
Maybe John Watts just wants to pull a Nick Chapman from The Big Picture and direct his like really small single location black and white 2 couples in a cabin, like discover infidelity and argue it out over a weekend.
Maybe, or the Joss Whedon black and white filmed it. Was it his house? The movie he made between the 2 Avengers movies.
Oh, you're talking about a real person. I'm talking about a fictitious person.
Yeah. Look, real people, fictional people, they all operate the same.
I lust for both, so therefore they're both real in my heart.
I don't lust for Joss Whedon, by the way.
I mean real and fictional people, though I do lust for Nick Chapman.
But I made the same dumb joke everyone made, which is Justin Lin and John Watts swap projects, and Watts, I want to do something smaller like Fast X.
He can still call his movie F4 if he wants to.
I know, right? They're both FF franchises.
So speaking of the Ant-Man trilogy, that's the next news item, which is that no huge news. It's not like they're years apart or anything like that. Yeah. But the sequel to Captain Marvel, The Marvels, and then the third Ant-Man movie, Paranormia. What's it called?
Quantumania.
Quantumania is they're swapping dates. Basically, they still both come out in 2023, but Ant-Man is now coming out in February instead of July. And Marvel's is coming out in July instead of February. They're just swapping date. They're just they're doing a face off. They're changing their faces.
They're doing a swap, which is very funny that Guardians 3 opens in between these movies in May, and there's been several like date swaps and switches and moves for MCU movies coming up, except for Guardians 3. Maybe because they've had to wait so damn long, and there was such a whole thing with Gunn being fired and coming back. They're like, Guardians 3 is opening in May 2023, and we are not moving that movie because everything seems to be switching around it, but not that.
Do you think now that we're sort of crawling out of COVID times, not ever fully, because it's probably going to wind up just being an endemic, but that we'll ever get sort of a very uniform long form storytelling that the first decade of the MCU did? Or is everything going to be sort of like pockets?
Oh, because
it's like Loki's Kang is going to go into Ant-Man, but will Loki's Kang go into anything else? Will anything truly unite the way that the original first 3 phases of the MCU did?
I think at
ever again.
some point, yes. Like, but I think that they are wise to wait on that and not try to, and to have like more mini events than like a Endgame, Infinity War, Endgame type event. Everyone is always going to be like Secret Wars and all this stuff that could happen.
I've seen so many people that I didn't even think would feel like this, somewhat resentful online about the fact that WandaVision is required viewing for Multiverse of Madness.
I know that's weird.
Which is like, it's a great series and you should watch it because it's great and you like great entertainment. Apparently, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Like, and B, like, it's. I know it's more of a quote unquote chore or more of a time commitment to watch a series than just a movie that you might need to see. But like, that was something that people got excited about during the first parts of the MCU, which is like, oh, these all connect, so I want to see these. Now it's like, I have to see this. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, first of all,
it's a weird
like
thing.
Is there, can you go see Doctor Strange? And if you haven't watched WandaVision, I think you'll be able to still be entertained by Doctor Strange.
I think everyone is, at this point adept enough with context clues that they can figure out what's happening. And they'll give you a few lines to let you. Yeah.
There'll probably even be a couple of clunky back exposition dialogue lines that
you'll appreciate and we won't. But still, I don't mind. But also watch WandaVision because it's great. All right.
Yeah. I do think it's a little annoying because look, I mean, what we never got from the Marvel television shows that weren't produced by Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios was it all to matter. It doesn't mean that I think that you should have to go into every single movie, having seen every single project and seen them all recently. But like they told us in 2019 that WandaVision would lead into Doctor Strange. They gave us plenty of time. They gave us plenty of heads up on that. And yeah, it's like, look, if you're not into the Marvel characters or stories or movies, or you even like, I've had enough of them, that's one thing I'm not going to be like, you must like them. But to just be mad about the like an ongoing story that connects together, I mean, like that's what it is. Like it's like, you can just be like, I want this story to be over. Is essentially, I guess, what some people would say, which I say, okay, don't watch it. Don't. It's over by you not. We just talked about a bunch of TV shows we stopped watching. I was never like, why are they still making episodes of The Flash? I stopped watching it. So why would they still produce that show? It's just, that's always a silly thing to me.
Why does the world stop and end with my wants and needs? All right, let's get into some mail here, as well as some news about our podcast in general. No, we're not ending it. So David writes in first, and this is, you can write into weenjoypodcast@gmail.com.
I'm just going to say, Matt, I thought we were going to skip the message email because you need to keep this short. But
oh no, I'm doing them really quick.
Okay.
I wanted to write. So David writes in, I wanted to recommend a movie that I keep hearing someone talk about. It's a 1991 movie that stars Bruce Willis, and it's called Hudson Hawk. David,
spit take.
David, I feel like this was done in jest. Spoiler alert, I'm recommending something in the Good Things to Enjoy today that I'm not 100% sure, and neither is Eric, that I didn't recommend before, but he's more sure than I am that I did not.
I think pretty sure.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's possible. We'll see.
David continues, I just watched it last week and I did like it. Good, David. It is a good thing to enjoy. It was an interesting combination of action and weird humor. The day before, I had watched 1991's Oscar with Stallone, and that was a movie that didn't go as I thought it would. Also an odd comedy. If you haven't watched it, give it a try. Thanks always for the podcast. I thought for a second it said thank you for always being a podcast. I was like, good. Good. I have seen Oscar. In fact, one of my high school classmates, a kid named Miles Berwick, used to quote that movie. One particular line, he would say, "Basta Fanucci's," which, if you haven't seen Oscar, it makes no sense. Also because one of the words is Italian. I guess both words, if you consider Fanucci an Italian surname. But actually, I thought Oscar was better than the reviews, I think, gave it credit for. I think it was an earnest and pretty good attempt at Stallone doing comedy. It was sort of a noises off style, not like a sexy like slapstick thing, but like it was a fast talking, quirky mobster comedy that I haven't seen in forever, but I remember enjoying it.
David, I have not seen Oscar, and I thank you for a recommendation. Maybe I'll check it out. Here's the thing. I didn't watch either of Stallone's kind of most notable like attempts at comedy of this era. The other was, of course, Don't Stop, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah, so that one I think is actually bad. I think
and that's
Oscar
the one,
was the good one. Yeah.
And that's from what I did get the idea that Stop or My Mom Will Shoot was a kind of the like embarrassing one. And Oscar, if at least was more of a noble failure. That there was like some more sort of interesting ideas, and I have
John
heard
Landis directed Oscar.
I have heard other people enjoy Oscar. John Landis, a very controversial figure for understandable reasons, but has made several very good movies. It's a couple movies that are among my favorite movies. So I should check out Oscar.
Perhaps. Yeah, but Oscar has Tim Curry and Marissa Tomei and Peter Reigart and a bunch of cool people. Chaz Palminteri, Kurtwood Smith. It's got so many recognizable faces, Eric. You'll just be like, hey, it's that guy, and hey, it's that woman. All right. And they're all an Oscar. So next message comes to us from Jaiman on Patreon. Now, Jaiman, you wrote this on into it like last Wednesday, an hour before we actually started recording the Hustlers podcast. So I just wanted to let our listeners know ahead of time that this is about Hustlers, which if you haven't listened to us recap Jennifer Lopez and Constance Wu's Hustlers, give it a try and watch the movie. It was kind of fun. All right. Hi, Matt and Eric. I've been wanting to write in for a while, but keep forgetting to post in time to make the show. Exactly, Jaiman. But I didn't forget this time. You kind of did because it was too close for me to see it. Jaiman continues, I've really been loving the watch-alongs you've been doing for a couple months. Thanks to you, I've watched movies I've never heard of, let alone seen. Some of these actually became some of my favorite movies. Moonstruck and Out of Sight, for example. While I didn't love all the movies, I'm looking at you, The Cell.
With you on that one.
It did broaden my horizons when it comes to movies. This week's movie, Hustlers, was one of the movies I've meant to watch but never did. While it isn't Magic Mike, it's a very interesting movie overall. I enjoyed it more than I thought. After all these movies, I have to admit that Jennifer Lopez, and Nicolas Cage for that matter, is a better actress than I realized. So thanks for introducing me to these incredible movies. Can't wait to see the actor series we're doing next. We're doing it. I guess we're doing an actor series if we consider like it's both a Chris Pratt, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum marathon of sorts.
I don't think we consider that, but we'll see what actor we haven't talked about. The next like person will follow, but I do enjoy doing
Knee Lift and Shakma. Jaiman signs off. Now, since he wrote on Patreon, it gives us a perfect opportunity to talk about how we are now adding a new tier to our Patreon. So for $2 a month, you can get a commercial-free version of this podcast. That's the Fun Fans tier. And then the next tier up will be $4, which is the price of a large iced coffee with your choice of dairy or non-dairy milk and sweetener at a Dunkin' Donuts a month, with where you will get at least one special bonus episode directly into your feed. So that includes the ones
one a month. One a month.
I'll say one a month, if not more, I guess,
yes.
Right? So the first one of that will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So our one-off episodes that are done for just separate movies or like the Disney Plus TV shows or something like that are going to the Patreon tier, which we will call, Eric. How about this? We'll workshop this right now. The Happy Fun Balls.
Well, here's the thing. Because we talked about this in text. My argument is, Matt, you'd previously named the regular tier Fun Fans, but I thought, but we call everyone a Fun Fan, whether or not they are Patreon at all. So
I have to name it something. So I
get yeah, but that's why I thought we could call it Super Fun Fan for the $2 level and then Mega Fun Fan. For
I don't know. I have to see if I can go back and change the name of the $2 one.
I think you can. I bet
maybe,
you can.
Possibly.
That's my
or
suggestion.
either that, or we could stick with Happy Fun Ball and Super Happy Fun Ball. to keep it aligned with that commercial. All right, I'll see what I can tinker around with, and
see what you can tinker around with. I will say, yeah, we'll do at least one a month. Will mostly be, I think, like a new release, whether it be a movie or a streaming service that just wrapped its season. But I think that there's always room there, for it could be something random. It could be
like you said, it's interesting that August has no big tentpole movie, so maybe that's the opportunity to
find something. Find an odd, interesting one-off there in August, and it could just be like a pilot of a new TV show that we both really like,
or The Cell 2.
Or The Cell 2. I don't know if we will make that one.
I mean, we don't, honestly, Eric, we don't know what we'd be getting into with that movie. It'll be a discovery for each of us. It's like every month when I go to one of the Alamo Draft Houses here, every month has a secret screening. And it is always, they used to be partnered with AGFA, which is American Genre Film Association, I believe is the acronym, and preserving old, bizarre, offbeat cult movies on 35 millimeter print, etc. But now it's not just AGFA only. Now they've opened it up to a bunch of things. Anyway, that's the part where I literally head into it not knowing what I'm going to see. It's kind of thrilling in that manner, because
I don't think I have to double check. I don't think the Alamo LA is doing that, but if they did,
I don't think they do it in Austin either. I think it's like a here thing.
That's cool.
Anyway.
I'd like to do that. Like we said, at least one special episode a month for that tier. But I can tell you in May, it's very likely, I don't want to say 100%, but I think 99% sure we'll have at least two in May. And I think there are other months that will happen as well, depending on.
All right.
And of course, those will all be ad free as well. If you're on.
Of course, yeah, they will also be. So the second tier will all get the ad free episodes and plus the bonus ones. Okay.
And then I just want to say, I did want to do a quick follow-up to Jamin's message to just say very much appreciated. I'm glad you, especially Moonstruck and Out of Sight being two of your favorite movies now. That's awesome. And yeah, I really like that, saying that it kind of made you reassess Jennifer Lopez and Nicolas Cage, who I think that is a cool thing about looking back on stuff like that, especially for actors like that for kind of, both of them have reasons that people have been kind of snarky about them that were usually kind of tabloidy reasons or kind of memey reasons, or just things that were outside of watching them as a performer.
And what, Keanu Reeves gets the same treatment. They're just certain stars that have that emit certain wavelengths and vibes that draw that type of heat. We mentioned this on the Face Off main event podcast that we did. I've always been the fact that you could do a supercut of outrageous Nicolas Cage moments from movies. But the fact that they always include that one part from Face Off where he's literally Sean Archer in Castor Troy's body trying to act crazy.
Right.
And I don't feel like that's legitimate, because he's supposed to be looking stupid and weird in that moment, because this is a guy who isn't that trying to play that. So that I was come on now. All right, let's head into good things to enjoy here. Eric, what is your good things to enjoy pick? And did you already recommend this?
I'm again 99% sure I have not recommended this officially. It's come up a lot. It's come up a lot recently for understandable reasons, which is why I decided to just outright make it my recommendation this week, which is Legion, the TV series Legion, which was an FX series that ran for 3 seasons based on the Marvel comic character. It's come up in relation to Moon Knight because both characters have in the DNA of their comic book characters that they have some mental issues that are, part of their story, and that it would be, wrong to do any adaptation of and not deal with that. Both in these cases, the TV shows are dealing with that in interesting ways. But yeah, and certainly Moon Knight in the last couple episodes had some stuff that evoked Legion even more. If you're not up on Moon Knight, I'll be vague there a little bit. But this show, again, some of you probably watched it and loved it, but I also don't think it was big enough where everyone has watched it and loved it, because it was still kind of an under
with it after the first season, right?
Well, there's 2 tiers of that, like our podcast, which is there are some people who only watch the first season, but I also think, or even maybe were more aware of the first season, but also I think there are people who just never saw it because it wasn't being pushed as much as the Netflix Marvel shows, and its Marvel connection was a little more vague.
People, I'm sure there are people out there who not only haven't seen it, but didn't know that like Charles Xavier is on the show.
Is a
like,
character eventually on this show. Legion TV series, which is based on, who another, like a lot of these projects, based on an obscure-ish character if you don't know Marvel Comics very well. But the nuts and bolts of it in the comics is Legion. David Haller is his real name, is Professor X, Charles Xavier's son. That he is his son, who, like his father, is a very powerful mutant. But unlike his father, has a lot of sort of mental issues and things he's dealing with, and sort of a fractured reality thing going on within his mind that is a lot of crossover between, a guy who can warp reality, but a guy whose own reality is warped. There you go. That's how you pitch it to FX. This was a really cool show. Noah Hawley, who was kind of coming off hot off of having done Fargo, which is a show he is still doing for FX, did this show in the wake of it, kind of in between seasons of that. And Dan Stevens, who, at this point is sort of, I think, still most famous for Downton Abbey and the Beauty and the Beast live action movie. But we've previously talked about The Guest, which is a very favorite movie of mine, is the lead of this. He is excellent, has David Haller in the show, who we meet in a mental institution and then sort of get more about him and what's going on with him. But what really sets this show apart, I think, is the visual style and how it was kind of like, let's see reality maybe through David's point of view. And everything is very weird. This is a very purposely weird, odd show. The production design, the look of it, the music cues, it's all like we are in a kaleidoscope of crazy stuff going on. But I think in a really cool, interesting way. The supporting cast is great. Rachel Keller, Aubrey Plaza is in this show. This show was a part of the Gene Smartassance, which has like
sort of kicked off the Gene Smartassance.
It didn't kick it off because she was already in Fargo before this. But it was
did season 2 of Fargo happen before Legion?
Mm-hmm. This is how Noah Hawley and her first worked together.
Oh, okay.
And Rachel Keller was also in Fargo before this.
That. She's on Tokyo. Season. She's on Tokyo Vice right now. If that show hasn't wrapped up already.
And Hacks being kind of the culmination, because now G Smart has like a show built around her, which she deserves. But she's in the show. Amber Midthunder, who's going to star in the Predator prequel Prey, is in this show. Bill Irwin, who had a very interesting history as a mime performer. Since everyone's great in this show.
I've told you that I saw Bill Irwin's one-man Broadway show, largely New York.
You did,
when I was a kid.
I'm having trouble remembering if I saw it or not too.
So when we were kids, Bill Irwin was very famous for being in the "Don't Worry, Be Happy" video, because it was Bobby McFerrin, Robin Williams, and then this
other guy that people didn't know.
He has gone on to have a huge movie career, and the fact that he is also on Discovery acting opposite Doug Jones feels like a very long-awaited bringing together of very tall mime performers.
I guess
the fact that they had not worked together before was sort of astounding.
They definitely certainly are great with their facial expressions. But Legion, the knock against Legion, I think that many would say, is the second season. The second season had, I think, a similar issue as Westworld, of maybe getting a little too smart for its own good, of like maybe leaning too far into to the point of too much confusion for the audience. I know it's a fine line with a show that is inherently meant to be confusing to the audience. Season 2 got a little too convoluted, but I think I really think that they stuck the landing. I really dig season 3. Season 1 is probably still the best, but I think that the show in its totality is really cool. Season 3 is when they did directly sort of decide to have Charles Xavier be involved in the story. This show is completely set in its own universe, apart from anything we saw in the X-Men movies. Legion, Dan Stevens showing up in Multiverse of Madness would be my dream cameo that I don't think is going to happen, but I would mark out if it did.
God, I thought you were giving me a spoiler for a second.
No. I've tweeted this as far as
because you were like Legion, Dan Stevens showing up as Legion in Multiverse of Madness, and
that was my favorite scene. I've seen 20 minutes of Multiverse of Madness. I've not seen the whole movie,
and it was Dan Stevens free.
It was Dan Stevens giving a monologue for 20 minutes. No, as far as I know, he's
explaining what season 2 was about,
and explaining what WandaVision was. But no, I love the show, and it is on Hulu in the US, and I believe it's on Disney Plus outside the US because FX has a hub, but that's where they are.
And and in show, not to spoil or anything, but they have a very interesting explanation for his his schizophrenia / sort of mental disparities, like when you finally discover why he's been the way he is. They tie it together in a cool way. My good thing to enjoy, and this is the thing that, Eric and I talked about on and off before this podcast started recording. I was like, did I recommend this? Did I recommend this? And it's another situation where or
did you say it in passing?
I probably mentioned it. Yeah. But because Lord knows I'm still getting Hudson Hawk emails.
Well, let's see if we can start a new wave or not.
But now will the Hudson Hawk emails be replaced by Girls 5 Ever emails? Let's find out. Girls 5 Ever, which you can watch on Peacock. I wanted to bring up Girls 5 Ever this week because season 2 starts May 5th. I can't remember how it works. Is it going to be episodic, or are they going to dump it all?
Peacock with their comedies is typically putting them all out at once.
So maybe you can just, it's sort of a quick watch because it's a half-hour comedy with season 1 has 8 episodes. Anyway, for those people who kind of miss the Tina Fey, Robert Carlock antics of 30 Rock and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, this series was created by Meredith Scardino, who worked on Kimmy Schmidt and also now on Mr. Mayor on NBC. And Girls 5 Ever is in that vein of that style of comedy. So if that's something you miss, I really loved both Kimmy Schmidt and 30 Rock. So the Girls 5 Ever was a fix that I needed. And it is basically about a flash in the pan 90s girl group that called themselves Girls 5 Ever, finding a doorway into a possible comeback in 2020 or 2021. I think it was released last year. It was. Because one of their hit song gets sampled by a rapper in a song, and it piques people's retro interest in their band, and so they decided to try to make a go of a reunion tour or a comeback of sorts. And it is very, very funny, and it is. The central character is played by Sarah Bareilles, who is a very accomplished singer and Broadway performer and Grammy nominated and so on. So, so she can sing her ass off, as can Renee Elise Goldsberry, who has been in many things, but also in the original run of Hamilton, which you can see her in on Disney Plus.
I believe she'll be in She-Hulk. Am I remembering that correctly?
I think so. Yeah. And then the other two members of the group are Busy Phillips and Paula Pell. And it is very, and then you've got, you've got Dean Winters and Tina Fey and Bowen Yang and funny cameos and pop-ins and recurring characters and so on. And it's very funny, but it's not a musical, but because it is based on a girl band, there are funny songs that funny hit singles.
Most episodes, if I recall, have one big song that is incorporated into it.
New York Lonely Boy is very funny, as is Dream Girlfriends, but the best song is I'm Afraid, in parentheses, Dawn's Song of Fears, which you can find these on YouTube too. You can just watch them on their own. But I highly recommend the series. It's 8 episodes just for the first season, and you could get it done just in time for season 2 before it premieres. If not, just watch season 2 a few weeks later. It's fine.
No, I watched this show last fall and I quite enjoyed it. I think it's a lot of fun. And like you said, if you're into that 30 Rock energy and seeing some familiar faces from 30 Rock pop up, this show is for you.
Very good. Very good. All right. Let's move into our main event, obviously, but we should still say it because we're on a Jurassic-thon here. Next week's main event, which you can also watch on HBO Max, is The Lost World Jurassic Park, aka Jurassic Park 2, also directed by Steven Spielberg, and it will be the last one he directs of this whole series.
Yep.
All right, let's head into Jurassic Park. Man, aren't people just on the edge of their seat clamoring for 2 white guys with glasses and facial hair to talk about Jurassic Park?
Also, and decide if they're gonna watch this obscure movie.
Is this something I should give a chance? Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Jurassic Park is as far as you can call anything a perfect movie. Jurassic Park's just one of those evergreen watches, stands the test of time, meaningful in so many ways for the industry, but also just iconic in its presentation of character and look and like you remember the red Jeeps, you remember the doorway, you remember the font, the fucking font of Jurassic Park is the Jurassic fart. The hard fart victory, the Jurassic Park font. This was a big year for Spielberg. It came out the same year as Schindler's List.
Famously, he was editing Jurassic Park while shooting Schindler's List.
They overlapped, and just sort of a maddening example of what a master he is at his craft. After a few bumpy years of like Hook and Always and stuff, he came back super strong with this movie that works on a dual level, viewer and character wise, in which we as viewers are watching a very new effects style with the way that Spielberg combined computer generated effects with practical, and seeing things that we had never seen, as the characters themselves in the story are seeing things they've never seen before. And so we both get to be in awe with them, looking at the Brachiosauruses on different levels, right?
Right.
And it works so well. This movie not only was huge for Spielberg and for special effects, but also for Michael Crichton, who had written this book.
Also a huge year for Crichton. It was ER this fall, I believe it was.
Yeah, ER. So this helped kick off. So Crichton was big in the 70s. He had movies already made. He had obviously Westworld, but then he
directed Westworld. Yeah,
he was directing movies. He was having his books adapted, like The Andromeda Strain and The Terminal Man, and he also directed Future World. And so he had a big wave going in the 70s. But then the 90s, man, after Jurassic Park and ER.
ER was 94, but still.
We got Congo, Sphere, and then we got movies we wouldn't even associate with like Michael Crichton, like Rising Sun and Disclosure and 13th Warrior. Like anything that was optionable for Michael Crichton was being turned into something at some point in the 90s. And this movie also kicked off a run of movies where somebody would welcome you to somewhere. That welcome to Jurassic Park made its way into many things for the next 20 years, where if there was a spectacle to see, someone would be like, welcome to Terra Nova or whatever. Like it didn't have to always involve dinosaurs, but I don't know why I picked that, but and Sam Neill had obviously been a working, Australian actor. He's New Zealand. He's a Kiwi. We had already seen him, Eric and I, in Dead Calm and a few other movies before this, but this also gave his career a giant boost as well, to sometimes leading man status, right? As we already did in The Mouth of Madness.
Samuel L. Jackson was already a working actor who had been popping up in other successful movies, but this is the beginning of him being in 10 million of the biggest movies of all time. Like the fact that Samuel L. Jackson is in just one mega blockbuster after the other, starting with Jurassic Park.
Then Wayne Knight is very famous for this movie and Seinfeld. Like those are his like biggest things. Obviously, he's voiced other characters, like Toy Story 2, and he got this role apparently because of when Spielberg seeing him in Basic Instinct, though, because he wouldn't have been famous for Seinfeld at this point. So he showed up on Seinfeld. Everyone was like, "Hey, it's Dennis Nedry," Then we've got Laura Dern, who'd already been a star throughout the 80s. Appearing in this, and it was apparently Spielberg's really was his first choice for the role. Interesting to read that other people who tested for these roles, like they really were key on Goldblum for Ian Malcolm, but Jim Carrey apparently already also read for that role and did very well.
His fellow Earth Girls Are Easy star?
Yeah, they just ran, and then Damon Wayans too. They did all the aliens from that movie.
Right. Yeah, Spielberg loves Earth Girls Are Easy.
It's one of his favorites. I remember liking it. I don't know how that holds up or how it presents itself now in modern days, but yeah.
Who knows? We'll do a Goldblum fest at one point, or a Jim Carrey one, and either way we could pick that movie. Rewatching it. So Jurassic Park is interesting in that. Look, I mean, this movie was highly effective from the night I saw it. I mean, I have super strong memories of seeing it opening night. I have super strong memories, and we'll talk, as we go through it, about the T-Rex attack and in general, and realizing I was watching like one of the greatest sequences I'd ever seen in a movie. I will say, as a movie, I really dug Jurassic Park when it opened, but I've come to love it even more as time goes on. I think just because I have come to like more and more realize how well constructed it is. And when I watch this movie now, it's like, God, I mean, the star of this movie is Steven Spielberg, because this movie is just like, it's a cliche to say a master at work, but just what he's pulling off here as far as like suspense and action and the melding of special effects in brand new ways, really cool shots constantly, great lighting, and obviously Dean Cundey being an amazing cinematographer as well. But just like seeing the work Spielberg does here, just twisting, turning, and how so many of the sequences are like, a lot of it is the same skills he would use in Indiana Jones of like, and what if this is thrown in as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a dinosaur, but what if there's this other thing? Like, the elements
the other master that always springs to mind after Spielberg doing this, layering up action sequences and tension, is Cameron, like adding a new thing to the already awful thing. And we had already experienced CGI in some form, blockbuster wise, in Abyss and T2 in different forms, but this was like a whole new level of what could be rendered on screen. Like,
well, because it was like, even though the T-1000 is of course a major character in T2, and we get
like the water face and
right. Like, but the dinosaurs, as far as like how much on-screen time they would have and the digital element being so crucial to it, and no, they're not 100% digital because there was such wonderful use of puppetry and animatronics in this movie. But that's what made it so cool. Like it all coming together. And look, again, it's like, it's funny. You watch this movie now in 2022 from 1993. Are there shots that don't look 100% like photorealistic to us in 2022 that are digital? Yes.
But also there are CGI things happening now that don't look good.
No. And that's what my main point was. Like, we've watched a lot of movies from the 90s by now on this podcast that were made after this that look like dog shit. They're CGI or just like kind of passable. And you look at what they did in 1993 and you're like, God damn, like this is impressive,
and like, speaking of that T-Rex scene, like I echo your sentiments, and it stands as, and I always bring it up as, because, you and I now the same age pretty much, where it's like, looking back at our life of watching movies, vividly remembering watching that for the first time in the theater, and this isn't something that happens, it doesn't happen very often. Like, obviously we see a lot of horror and we get like jumped or we get creeped out or something like that. But like, I was scared. The THX sound in that fucking Cineplex Odeon on whatever 70th and Broadway Street, that theater doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't matter. But like, that sound, that roar, those children screaming, like, I was fucking freaked out. And the fact that I can still remember that feeling, it speaks to the effectiveness of that scene and how powerful it was. And like, this isn't something that you feel, like this deep well of like dread isn't something you often feel in a movie. And
much less for this like sustained scene, is like, several minutes, this sequence that plays out.
All right.
That just unrelenting.
It's great. It's great. Blend of CGI and practical. Stan Winston's puppetry, his robotics, obviously contributing so much here. The way that the artful way that it's edited so that like you see exactly what you need to see at the right times and how it works. And Jaws style stuff of like not showing us everything at once, whether it's the raptors until the third act or like waiting on that T-Rex reveal too, like showing his head and then his body, like that's all playing out here too. It's just like so much going on here, so much memorable, and the script too. So we had like Crichton writing the script and then David Coep
I believe
rewriting it. Every line pays off, like everything.
David Koepp, which I think kicking off becoming this mega blockbuster writer, writing Spider-Man and was it Mission Impossible? Like David Koepp's just like kind of his crazy run of.
But like anything you hear in that movie about a dinosaur, how the raptors hunt, how the spitters spit, like anything that just seems like a throwaway bit of information comes back in this movie to kill someone. All right. So, and then let's talk about the opening of this movie, which we've got the font, we've got the rainy jungle setting, and we've got basically kind of like a horror movie opening, never showing us what's inside the crate, but also giving us a facility, a containment facility that looks like a future prison, it's a metal box and everything looks like it's set up to house Castor Troy and Face Off. Like it's this it's this type of building that we don't recognize.
And also playing with expectations, because look, Spielberg's making a giant, blockbuster, at the time, probably $100 million budget or whatever the budget of this movie was, that he well knows is going to be sold on. You're going to see dinosaurs. So the opening is all predicated on, we expect a dinosaur to walk out of that bushes. Instead, it's a vehicle holding a cage, holding a dinosaur.
Right. And we've got the first character we kind of meet is Bob Peck's Robert Muldoon, the G.I. Joe Outback looking guy with the fucking tight shorts and meaty thighs. This guy. Oh, he's.
I was going to say, between Muldoon and Gennaro, the lawyer, men in shorts in this movie, away from like a beach setting. This is an unusual movie for how two of the primary characters.
I feel like we have a lot of sexiness in this movie that outside of just Goldblum's open shirt, like sweaty, wounded Ian Malcolm. I feel like there's more sexy to spread around here.
And no one more sexy than attorney Donald Gennaro.
Yeah, like Donald Toilet Gennaro.
Legs for days, Gennaro.
Sexy, don't cheap out on me, Dodgson. We've got, yeah. So, because he was sort of like a snack too, just Dodgson popping in. Okay, so somebody dies. Whatever's in this tank, this cage, this containment unit is super dangerous and rabid and ferocious, and we see its eye, and that's all we get until we cut to a scene like this. Isn't the moment we cut to Doctors Grant and Sattler. We get a little bit else first. We go somewhere else. We go to this amber mine to get a little bit of exposition, which is, no one minds. We get it. This is when we meet.
No one minds.
This is when we get, I love it. No notes. Did not hate that one. Legs that go all the way up. Gennaro is talking to somebody about the accident, the incident that just occurred, the murder.
$20 million lawsuit.
And the fact that he is representing investors and setting up the entire premise of the movie, which is that they need to do a safety inspection on this park or it won't open, and that they need experts. So they need the lawyer, and then he needs to pick two people. Ian Malcolm is very trendy. That's all we know of him at this point. And he wants Grant, who is the top in his field. And we then we get a peek. It leads us out with a very cool visual of the mosquito and amber, which we don't know what that means yet in this movie, but we will.
I want to pause for 1 second. Just because I realized one thing I didn't say about the very first scene is that I think the first, before we even see Muldoon, we see kind of these guys in construction hats. And I will note, we'll talk more about it later, but one of the first things we see in this movie, if not the very first thing, is the logo to Jurassic Park has a part of the movie which is introducing a meta aspect that gets way bigger later, but was very interesting for a giant studio movie to do at the time. Like the poster, that dinosaur skeleton on the red we'd been seeing for a year, and now the movie itself opens with that. That was in 1993 especially felt kind of a very interesting thing to do.
Yeah, well, the movie was welcoming us to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were going on the tour as well. We finally get Grant and Sattler, who are, it takes a while. Like, you're watching this movie for the first time and you're wondering what their relationship is, right? It's always interesting because they're not openly affectionate. The first time
we see them walking,
no, they don't. And so the first time we see them walking away, she puts his neckerchief on and he kind of rubs his hand down her back and touches her butt. He gets a butt touch in, and that lets you know that they're very close and they have some sort of relationship. But the rest of that movie, until Ian asks Alan later, like, are you two? And he's like, yes. And it's kind of like, I think it's such a power move too from Alan Grant, that like he never stops Malcolm from flirting with Sattler. Like he just lets it play out because, and I always like to feel like he feels no threat. Like their relationship, this is one of the reasons why Jurassic Park 3 makes me angry, is that like I always like to believe that he feels the relationship is so strong that anyone on Earth could flirt with Sattler and he doesn't give a shit, right? Like,
well, hold your Jurassic Park 3 thoughts till we get there. But yeah, I mean, look, the one main thing, of course, is we are introduced with this conversation about kids and the fact that she would like to have them and he has no interest.
Hates kids and he hates computers. Kids smell, computers may smell. I don't know, but yeah, he's such an analog dude that not only does he sort of like object to radar mapping, which isn't like that huge of a technology when it comes to like excavating, that he can't figure out a buckle on a seatbelt like later on in the helicopter. He's that
he knows bones. He knows the bones.
I know his enough. I know tying rope and I know bones, and that's it.
The scene it's a little awkward and clunky, I think, with because the movie is trying to do a lot of exposition up front, and so I've always been a little amused by the group of people with them at the dig who you'd think would be like up on everything, and yet he's explaining to them like the bird, like, you know, the theory that dinosaurs evolved the birds. I'm like, they must be up on this.
Well, obviously, also was in his book, right? Like, right. Like because the grandkid read his fucking book, but these guys didn't. I don't know. Seems pretty off.
Did it for the money.
But then you know, the fucking dream child chimes in. Yeah, the kid, like an asshole.
Whit Hertford, the actor who Matt and I know has the title character of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child, has a notable, memorable one scene role here. Has the kid who gets absolutely terrified by Alan explaining how a raptor would murder him. And has a very funny, I think, a very funny line read when he finishes his entire story here, and you know, he's just show a little respect, and his okay is very funny.
But like Ellie Sattler afterwards, like, you could have just held a gun on him, like making a good point about the fact that like not only is he not great around kids, but he's openly hostile in scary ways. And I always thought it'd be funny. It would be totally out of sync with the movie if it cut away and the kid pissed himself, like somehow, like it's like he was.
And then Alan saw that he did it. He smiled.
Scarred for life. He's like, "See, I told you, kids smell." Filthy child. Okay. Yeah. So we get so much here. We get the Okay. Alan Grant is an adultist, right? Like, no shame in the game. Some people just aren't comfortable around children. They don't like switching their ways of communication to talk to somebody who's on a different wavelength or a different maturity level. They don't like changing anything about the way they interact to basically interact with a child. They don't want to have kids. It's fine. But that's the setup for the front of that's what we get at the top. And the fact that she might want some, and that's another very small hint about the fact that they are together. Other than that, again, they're not tongue kissing. So we take what we can get. And then we get the great Richard Attenborough showing up. A director, actor for decades, British legend, Richard Attenborough, brother of broadcaster Sir David Attenborough, who we know from narrating everything, Planet Earth, Blue Planet, Natural World, all the nature shit that you get from the BBC that's so great. Was Richard Attenborough knighted? I know David is.
I don't believe he was, but he had won 2 Oscars for Gandhi by this point.
But he is
America's knighting.
He's so good in this. He's so good, especially I really love Attenborough later on when his kids are in danger, and he's sort of like the calmness he has. He is grown up selling things to people. He's a salesman. Some might say it sometimes a con man. And you can see his inner workings trying to sell himself that they're okay, that like trying to convince himself and trick himself. And which is why he never full on panics. So good. He's so good here. And he's good as like, again, here, the jolly salesman, but with money to back him up. And we get Grant and Sattler finding him in their trailer after his helicopter lands, and he's like, I want you to come to, and it's so weird how he's like, doesn't just straight out tell them I have fucking dinosaurs. like
come here. I mean, he bribes them because he tells Grant that he'll like fully fund, you know, he's already funding him.
That's the promoter in him, right? That's the entertainer. He's like, I want them to discover only after boots are on.
I want to clone dinosaurs.
Yeah, I want to see the looks on their faces when I'm next to them. I don't want to tell them. Though it
I don't even
seems
want
like
them to expect clone dinosaurs.
Yeah, it seems like Malcolm knew a little bit, because when he sees the brachiosauruses, he's like, you did it, they did it, you know, like he had an idea, but these two aren't given an inkling of what's awaiting them. He's just like,
Gennaro probably told Malcolm because he's not the showman that
this movie also that's true, and Malcolm was his pick, right? So this movie also opens with a connection to another main event, which is that Grant and Sattler are excavating in Badlands in Montana.
They are.
So, yeah,
I put that in my notes as well.
All right. So then we're off here, right? Like we've got the Raptors method of killing and hunting set up. We've got we're at this point also dying to know what we're going to see on this island, and Richard Attenborough is so absolutely up his own ass and excited about it. We just can't wait. And then we go, before we get to the helicopter, before we get to the entry point, we get and here's where at times you can think that Jurassic Park gets a bad rap. Yes, everything descends into hell and it's inherently unsafe because it's sabotaged, right? Like, who's to say this park couldn't have opened flawlessly and run for decades with little to no incidents?
Had it not been Nedry and Dodson.
For Nedry and Dodson and their scheme to smuggle off 15 species of viable embryos from the island in a tricked out shaving cream can that he has to steal. But to do that, he has to shut down security measures on the island so he can get past the gates.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to everything. And it sucks. And because of that, even Hammond at the end is like, yeah, my park sucks. Like, I feel bad. Right. But yeah, Wayne Knight is great in this scene. Very memorable. He's a memorable look. He's a loudmouth. He's a braggart. He sweats a lot. Everything we love about Wayne Knight.
Right. And him yelling, Dodson. It's Dodson is great.
I have seen the Jurassic World movies. Does the team that was trying to steal these embryos ever get revealed?
It is open knowledge that we can talk about that in the new film Jurassic World Dominion, Dodson returns. But that since that actor turned out to be a piece of shit, who you can look up what he did, he's not returning. Campbell Scott is playing Dodson in Jurassic World Dominion.
I like Campbell Scott way more than this apparently shit clown of a human being. All right,
there you go.
Campbell Scott,
because I don't even know if we get.
Also very sexy.
He is sexy. And we talked about him in our Amazing Spider-Man recaps. I don't even know if we get a name for Dodson's company, clearly a rival.
No, it's not mentioned. Engine. That's why I'm wondering if it ever sort of paid off. Like this attempt at corporate espionage fails, obviously. Right. And that shaving cream can gets buried under mud. To never be discovered or something like that. So until
the trailer for Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, am I saying that word right? The animated series, the final season shows one of the kids holding the shaving cream can.
It is Cretaceous.
Cretaceous. I always say that wrong. But yes, so the shaving cream can is in the animated series, which, has many people pointed out, was only supposed to keep the viable for 36 hours.
So it would have been useless anyway. But yes. Then we get to, so we haven't talked about John Williams' score yet. Another banger from the Williams here, so memorable, among all of his best, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and this, and E.T., right? Like, so we're getting the best here, and never is it really more prevalent than the helicopter fly into Isla Nublar.
Yeah,
the score is just soaring. Grant is being a bimbo bubblehead bonehead because he can't figure out a helicopter buckle. But then this is also when we meet Jeff Goldblum's excessively Goldbloomy Dr. Ian Malcolm, who one of the first things out of his mouth is sort of like a chuckle slash
Goldblum is at full Goldblum in this movie.
And he, even though I always feel like he's at his fullest Goldblum in Transylvania 65000, here, this is his most famous Goldbluming. And he was parodying himself far before any actor normally would, because that usually in an actor's career comes like 20 years later. But he had already synced into an acting style that people at the time were already impersonating in like Saturday Night Live and other things. So, yeah. But yeah, he is, again, and Hammond even brings it up, calls him a rock star, where he's got a leather jacket. He's got like cool Bono shades.
Yeah.
He's also a chaotician. He is doing chaos theory, which in the early 90s was the hot pseudoscience. And all the books were like chaos this and chaos that, or, Scientology.
I did have a exciting moment when I realized, watching Jurassic Park, that it kind of looped back to one of my very favorite movies, Heathers, in which Christian Slater says, "Chaos is great. Chaos is what killed the dinosaurs." And I was like, it all ties in.
And Dr. Ian Malcolm was kind of like my mentor, JD.
Jason Dean, have you ever heard of him?
So this is our crazy cast of characters that show up, soar into the island, a bumpy landing, and we go right to the sunglasses scene. Iconic, heavily gift moment, not just Alan Grant fumbling to take off his sunglasses because he's in awe of what he's seeing in the Brachiosauruses, but also like turning Ellie's head and then her rise standing up inside the Jeep and looking like the great reaction.
What it is, there's a lot here because it's just like, Spielberg's great with reaction shots in general, but this is his magnum opus because Alan takes the hat off, stands up, then takes the sunglasses clumsily off, then grabs Ellie's head, turns it. She takes the sunglasses off and she stands. So there's just a lot of reaction on reaction, and it totally works because it's just building into everything here.
And we get the welcome to Jurassic Park. And it also is funny because it's kind of like if Alan, if he had turned like 30 degrees to the right, he would have also seen just an open field of grazing dinosaurs of all sorts. It's like, oh yeah, and over there is all the dinosaurs. But everyone's reaction is great. And now he's like, how did you do this? And then we get into the instructional video featuring Mr. DNA, another fun little pop culture thing from this movie. Also a great Devo song back in the day. Was the idea, is a question for you, Eric, because it's an interactive video between John Hammond on video and I had himself, a question too. Was he going to interact with every person who
this did not seem likely. This did not seem likely that John Hammond would have the time to be there for everyone going through.
He was there for every single Eric dinosaur birth. So maybe he is that.
But that's got to be a little more. That's a little more spread out.
I know what happens when it's coupon day and it's just flooded.
That's true. I can't believe that John Hammond would be there for every person going through that ride. So I'm going to guess that a couple of things. Either they would just have someone always say, "I'm your tour guide, John," no relation to John Hammond, and then the John Hammond video would start and they'd say John to John, or there were alternate things where the name he said would be different. This is all my mind explanation.
I get it, but also maybe they just have a lot of lookalikes at some point.
because I try to equate it with if you do the much maligned Fast and Furious ride at Universal Orlando, which I don't hate as much as everyone else, but they have a couple different actors who play roles in the lead up who have purposely multi-gender names. Like there's a Pat and I can't remember the other one, maybe Chris, so that Mia can be like, "Hey, my buddy Pat," or "Hey Pat, what's going on?" And it doesn't matter who's playing Pat or whoever this role is.
Maybe it's like Galactic Star Cruiser where they have several John Hammonds, right? Like
that's in my mind that there is an explanation for this because that John Hammond being on the video and then also being there when the video will show him multiply. I don't think even John Hammond he multiplies
like Bebe's kids, right?
As much as John Hammond is obviously modeled on Walt Disney with like the showman and being a part of like presenting himself stuff. Even I can't think that Walt Disney did like to show up at Disneyland and sometimes ride through the car in the center of Main Street. But there was not a time where you could be guaranteed to see him if you went to the Tiki Room introduced every time. It would have been amazing.
And this is where like we learn about like blood taken from ancient fossilized mosquitoes that were trapped in amber, and frog DNA was used to fill in the gaps, and this is how. But then obviously this video isn't giving them all the answers they want, so they essentially break the ride and go meet BD Wong, who eventually returns in the Jurassic World Series 2, and we get to witness the gooey, ooey gooey, cooey birth of a baby raptor. And so the first time we actually do see a raptor, not in its full form. So he's still holding back everything, but we also again get the concern from Alan, from Dr. Grant about raptors. It's like, you have raptors here. Like that's not that great, which is funny, which is an interesting way to lead up to raptors, because he was in awe that they had a T-Rex. He's like, you have a T-Rex? It was not the same reaction to raptors. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's one thing to have a T-Rex, but raptors are like a different level of danger, which is great leading into the third act, right?
Oh, yeah. Also, like the idea of that this is a ride, because there is frequent mentions that like there's going to be more rides, and that when they open the park will open with like just like the tour as its main thing, because first and foremost they have fucking dinosaurs, but the idea that there will also be extra attractions down the line, and this is one little preview of that.
And then we also learn.
And a great line, Gennaro always makes me laugh. Are these characters autoerotica? And animatronic fuck up, very funny.
But this is where we get one of the famous lines from the movie, Life finds a way, which is when we learn that the dinosaurs are bred to be female, so there's no breeding on the island, for which Ian Malcolm doubts that is a foolproof plan, that nothing is 100% when it comes to nature and its inherent need to find a way. A great line. And then also, basically like what the conversation that leads directly from this, the roundtable they all have, and the debate about like all these great lines that are coming mostly from Malcolm, right? Like, so Goldblum gets a lot of cool philosophical, ethical theory lines about like, you were preoccupied if you could, you didn't think if you should, and you didn't earn it, therefore you accept no responsibility for it, and all that stuff. And the only one, and Hammond saying the only one on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer. And then Grant being sort of diplomatic, like not taking a side, but also being like, hey, we don't know what to expect. It's a great line, but also shows you that Grant isn't sort of like, he's not as black or white as someone like Ian Malcolm, or he's more reserved in his emotions and his opinions. And he's like that the whole movie. And so his line actually makes sense.
But I do think in that scene, again, this is a movie with so many iconic quotes, but that scene, which, you didn't stop to think if you should, because it opens with Malcolm before like everyone else gets their say too. But Goldblum's great in that scene, especially because he is like super Goldblum-y and wacky in this movie, but he's not wacky in that scene. He's very serious in that scene. And I really love the line, the lack of humility before nature that's being displayed staggers me, and how he delivers it. I just think it's a great scene for all of them. He also has the what you call discovery called the rape of the natural world.
Well, it's good because like you said, he's the jester for the movie for the most part. So to not give this speech to Sattler or Grant is great, because it instantly makes him a way more interesting character, because he's about to go on this tour and make a lot of jokes. So it balances him out in a way that makes him that we invest in him too. Like, we don't want him to die when we get a fake out in a little bit, that like and helps him come back for the sequel. Okay, so then we get the grandkids in the introduction of basically the real emotional arc of this movie, which makes me cry in several key moments, especially like when Lex is like talking, like really fully panicking, and like he left us, and like how Dr. Grant is thrust into this super protective, nurturing fatherly role to guide these kids through like almost immediately with the attack of the T-Rex, because like this is a guy who literally does not want to sit next to them when the tour starts. So we get Tim Murphy we get Joseph Mazzello as Tim, and we get Ariana Richards as Lex. And Joseph Mazzello in his recent social media years has been very funny online about his past as a star in Jurassic Park. But yeah, they're brought in, and again, speaking to how much like Grant is uncomfortable and maybe even detests children, he won't even talk to a child who's actively interested in dinosaurs
and a fan of his,
a fan of his, and somebody who you probably could talk to on a peer level about things.
And who, when I was younger, I didn't realize how much. And you can, write it both. Obviously, it's done to, this connection, but also because he's a fanboy, he's dressed much like Alan, with like denim and an ascot around his neck. He likes ascots, Alan. Come on.
Yeah, and he still doesn't want to give him the time of day. It's
hard, and also look, there will always be a too cool for school component. There's like, why do you got to bring kids into these stories? Now, as we go through the Jurassic movies, we'll talk about whether that's always successful. But in this movie in particular, I think it's very successful and it works for the storyline, and also the fact that guess what? Steven Spielberg is very good with kid actors. So it's
he's so good. Yeah.
The
Joseph
performances
Mazzello
are
and
good,
Ariana Richards are so good in this movie. Yeah, to a staggering degree. He's so like you said, he knows how to get the most out of kid actors who are already great, but also he, like Spielberg, is able to draw even more out of them.
Yeah.
And so we're off on this tour. The only thing that doesn't quite age well, if anything doesn't age well in this movie, it's Lex's hacker persona, as far as the over like use of the hacker terminology. Like even when Dennis sets up like the booby traps on his computer, and Mr. Arnold is like, I hate this hacker crap, and like everything was hacking at the time, and we understand this coming from this era. But Lex,
we should mention that.
Saying I prefer the term hacker,
Yeah. That will always.
Like, she doesn't hack at the end. She just knows how to use the computer.
Yeah, she understands how to use a computer, which in 1993 many would not. But yeah,
it meant you were a hacker.
Yeah, you're a hacker. You know how to use it. You know how to open a file. Are you some kind of hacker? Ray Arnold, Samuel Jackson's character, is funny because I realized I was kind of hyper tuned into it this time, but multiple times you hear him before you see him because he's making announcements about the boats leaving. His first on-screen line is "Hold on to your butts," which is like his catchphrase, but we've already heard him say a few things prior to actually
another famous line. Yeah, "Hold on to your butts." And then again,
I have a action figure, Matt, from last year that Mattel put out. That is the death of Ray Arnold. It's basically made to never take out of the package because it's kind of a diorama of the raptor attacking him, a scene we never saw, but he says different things when you open the box, including, of course, "Hold on to your butts."
Yeah, so apparently there was going to be an extended scene of him being stalked and killed by raptors, but I think that a storm destroyed the sets, and so it got shortened. Not complaining, it's still really effective because it turns it into more of a horror movie beat, the discovery of the arm and stuff like that. Yeah, and having it happen off screen is just perfectly fine. We get the tour started, and again, we get the introduction of the idea of the Dilophosaurus. But yeah, we don't see them. We just know that they extend their webbed frills or whatever it's called, and they spit venom in their victims' eyes. And then we get the T-Rex and the goat. That is a great use of just like storytelling imagery, because later when they're like, well, where did they stop? And all we have to see is that goat
to the goat, which begins the sequence.
It's so good. And then, we get all like a zoo, the animals are no showing. And so Ian Malcolm saying there are going to be dinosaurs on this dinosaur tour. Very funny. And then we get to the sickly Triceratops.
I just want to mention before that Nedry, who's is a slob of a man, and chugs Jolt Cola,
something that even as a kid I couldn't take. Like it just didn't taste good to me, man.
It didn't taste good. I made myself drink it a couple times because I thought it was cool.
It was cool. I just couldn't do it. Yeah, I couldn't do the cool thing. Therefore, I was not cool.
You're cool, right? You drink Jolt.
In retrospect, I was cool for not drinking Jolt, but at the time,
you don't want to be a Dennis Nedry, so
yeah,
don't drink Jolt.
Sloppy Hawaiian shirt wearing Dennis Nedry with his disheveled, awful, garbage-filled workstation. And there's a weird little backstory that we don't get the details on, because he feels Hammond is not paying him enough. But also, Hammond is aware that Nedry has like money problems. Like it seems like Nedry did something that like lost him money. Yeah, like maybe he gambles or does things. And so they've had financial discussions before, and he just at some point refused to give him more money. So hence the espionage, has the sabotaging that leads to everything that happens in this movie. And Wayne Knight being very nervous and sweaty in his scheming to basically having to leave and like do fudge an excuse to shut down some of the park systems, and therefore if they see things shut down, it's just all part of like operations, and so he can steal these embryos and get out. And it's a testament to Spielberg too, where when he is, when we're given like what time he has to be at the boat and the storm's rolling in and the boat might leave early and he's like in a crunch for time to like get to the port and like get out, and he's like, we get nervous for him, like, oh, I want him to get out to the boat, you know, like, and even though he's the bad guy, we really don't want him stealing these embryos, where we're invested enough in him. It's like, oh God, is he gonna make it? Oh no, he crashed his car. What's he gonna do? He certainly doesn't have enough time to like, get this cable and wedge himself out. But yeah, so this is what's setting up everything. We get that's one big pile of shit line elsewhere at this time, because they are checking on the sickly dinosaur who may or may not have eaten a poisonous plant that and so they have to check, and this takes Ellie out.
Yeah. Also, Laura Dern, excellent. Her emotion, like getting teary-eyed, like that this thing is real and in front of her, and she's touching it. She's great in this scene. Continuity wise, it's a little wonky. It makes me think they'd probably rearrange some scenes, because we just in a previous scene had Samuel L. Jackson say 5 minutes to the final boat, put down your work, get to the boat. But then the doctor who's with the Triceratops is very like, yeah, I can drive you back. Then I got to get to the boat. I'm like, dude, you're not making that boat. They just said 5 minutes. I don't know where that doctor is for the rest of the movie.
Also, I don't know where the oncoming storm is in this scene in particular, but
yeah, I think this scene was originally earlier. Yeah. I think that's we're just seeing that in editing, they changed it up a little bit.
Okay. And then we've got, let's see. We've got everything starts shutting down. The raptor cage has not been deactivated at this point, but a lot of the other gates have, and including the T-Rex scene, which is where the Jeeps stop and the lawyer, Gennaro, gets to be an asshole one last time to the kids before we root for his death. And we've already...
We also get a moment of truth, because the scene is interesting, because earlier in the sequence, when Grant comes back to the Jeep, to the car with Ian, and Ian says, are the kids okay? It's like, Alan didn't even think to ask. He's like, he didn't even think about that. But of course, a few minutes later will be a moment of truth where Gennaro runs away from the kids, and Alan is the first person to like pick up to be a distraction.
And apparently Dr. Malcolm was originally supposed to run away, and Jeff Goldblum was like, it would be better, like character-wise, like I should try to be heroic and just sort of fail. Like, which is best for the character.
And I like that too, because as much as, again, there's kids here and they're gonna make some fuck ups, and Lex is going to turn on the light and it'll be like, no, turn that fucking light off. But like Ian fucks up too, because Alan's plan to throw the flare looked like it was about to work and the T-Rex was going to fall away.
Yeah, and he did it too.
Ian lights,
and whether or not it was like a weird competition thing with Alan, you'd have no idea. But it makes sense for Ian's character, because he, like you said, he was the one in the car who brought up the kids and whether they were okay. Like,
and we learned he has 3 kids, by the way.
Yeah,
and multiple ex-wives,
and he's married occasionally. We've also cut over a lot of the flirting he was doing with Ellie, like the drops of water on her hand, and like, and her sort of like giggling like a bashful crush of some sort. But again, nothing that really ever makes us doubt her relationship with Dr. Grant. And nothing
I
that
feel
makes
like
Dr.
the way
Grant,
it plays is more that she's bemused than she's
I do
like,
too. And like nothing that makes Dr. Grant like overly like upset, because even she's like, hey, Alan, look at this water on my hand. Like she was trying to show him.
I mean, like, it is a thin line between nothing to worry about and just so not even paying attention that he's not noticing this guy's hitting on his girlfriend.
It's probably true, because look, they're dinosaurs possibly out there.
There are dinosaurs.
But so then kicks off one of the greatest sequences in cinema. Yes. Truly frightening. Kids in peril scenes are always one of the most charged and emotional things you can do in movies. They can also fail if you don't care, right? Like if not done right, but like when effective, like it is just the next level of just feeling anxious and nervous and scared. And the layering he does here with, and the fact that like in the Jeep behind them, they can't really tell until too late what's going on with the because of the rain, the power of the storm and the distance. They don't know that they're being attacked necessarily right out of the gate. But yeah, the rise of the T-Rex head, the
The wires snapping.
Wire snapping, and then finally seeing it walk into frame, like finally getting the full T-Rex reveal. And then after the full Rex reveal, only getting bits and pieces of it, because like we'll see the foot or the tail or the eye in the window or its nose like nudging the car or something like that. Like it's so well done that like once we see the full T-Rex, we understand its dynamics and it's basically its shape and form, and like can make it work from there. The combination of the computers and the robot
is done seamlessly. And look, it's funny because the first full sequence we see dinosaurs in this movie, which is the Brachiosauruses, you know, the famous taking off the sunglasses and hats and standing up scene, is not the most realistic looking scene in the movie. And it never was. In 1993, I remember it was not. I could see the seams a little bit, but the T-Rex scene is perfect, and for multiple reasons, which is it does involve both CGI and a full digital T-Rex, but also, of course, it's set at night in the dark in the rain, so you can mask better. But which is not me saying gotcha, is me saying look at how well they did that. Like look at like when that T-Rex is walking in between them and it's all digital, it looks fucking great. And when it's the close up of a giant animatronic T-Rex head, it looks great. And just the escalation, like you said, the kids in peril, and the fact that in the moment I was like, these kids are gonna die. Like when it's smashing its head down through the wind, shield, but also when the car gets turned over
and crushed, and the mud floods in,
it's smashing down, and it's like their bodies will either snap from the car or they'll drown in the mud. Like, you know, it's like I'm saying, it's like the best example of a hat on a hat on a hat. It's like everything is just like this escalation. And my memory of seeing this movie is I saw it opening night in Westwood at the now departed Avco movie theater, which at the time was a great movie theater. It was a threeplex. The main screen had like 1,000 seats. They would later split it, which was super shitty. It was one of the first two theaters ever in America to have THX sound, and it was so packed. And I went with a big group of friends. I think our mutual friend Jonah was there, but it was so packed, and we didn't get there early enough and there was no reserved seating, that we were in like the third or fourth row, and we decided, fuck it, let's sit in the front row. And yes, we had to crane our necks, but that sequence, we were like, geez, like, I don't know if I think we were yelling, because it was like the shattering, the sound, if we were literally right in front of us because we're in front row, amazing. Like, just really stands out as like one of the most amazing moments watching this happen.
And we've got, so the kids are like, we're fearing for their lives. We're all sucked into this scene. Grant makes a snap decision, grabs a signal flare, chases the T-Rex away. Ian tries it. And this is after we already mentioned the lawyer ran away, went to hide in the outhouse. And we get the T-Rex charging, crashes, basically Rhino butts up Jeff Goldblum's character through the shed, injures him. We don't really know at the time if he killed him, but he definitely kills and eats the lawyer.
Yes.
And that's, so the sequence ends with that. It's not over, but like, cause that's when we're also cutting back to Nedry and his like attempts to get off the island, and his amusing, I love his like little chat that he has with the Dilophosaurus, where he's, he's like, what do you want, food? I don't got any food. Look at me. I'm in the rain. Like,
but before we cut away, we still have the whole thing of the car going over the side. And again,
does that happen before we cut completely back?
Yeah, because the car, like, again, it's like the car now becomes a weapon because the T-Rex is hitting the car, making it spin at Alan and Lex. They have to go over the side. Then it's going to fly down at them. And like Lex has to grab the other rope, and she's accidentally choking Alan because she's panicking. And
it's like we assume that Tim isn't dead because we do cut away, right? Like, even though the car falls and we're like, oh my god, the kid was in there, because we cut away to other scenes, we're like, okay, well, he's probably safe, because that would be a weird thing to cut back to, is like dead kid. Like,
I agreed, but they end that sequence with the T-Rex roaring at camera, which is like a button on the sequence. Because I remember when it ended, I can't remember if we cheered or there was like just a group exhale of like the audience just being like,
because the two big roars in this film are the first big one in that scene, the one you just mentioned, and then the one at the end when the banner drops. But like what basically Spielberg was trying to emulate like how he felt with like the King Kong roar, like
but then we get the Dilophosaurus and Nedry sequence,
and the drawn out, the very well done drawn out death of Dennis Nedry, which works here, does not work in the next movie where they do sort of a weird drawn out death and that's not as effective at all. But yeah, here it works because it's layered. It introduces you to a dinosaur that itself reveals itself to be different things. His reaction,
the dinosaur seems to be playing with him.
And like it makes cutesy noises, and he's freaked out, but also kind of annoyed at the same time because it's not a big dinosaur. He doesn't know that he thinks it's not safe, so he finds it just sort of unnerving more than anything while he's trying to like get through this. But yeah, then just horror hits and he gets spit he loses his glasses, he gets spit in the face, then he gets spit in the eyes, and then eventually in the car, it's already in there like a slasher movie. The dino is waiting for him in the car and makes that really horrible. Then it turns into like a monster, like it spreads out its fins and it hisses and the sort of an awful rattles in an awful way. The shaving cream can is buried for an animated series to dig up later on.
Yes, for what I assume is just a callback of them finding it, because at the time, because it gets this great shot of the mud covering it, a lot of people falsely thought, oh, that's a setup for a sequel, even though, again, the embryos were supposed to die after 36 hours. I think that shot is basically just, like you said, this all happened because of Nedry and shutting down the security. And it's like it was all for nothing. Like, it's like this thing is just going to be buried to be found on an animated series a few decades later. But yeah, all this was because of this can that ended up Dodson didn't get it and nothing came of it.
And so basically we get everyone's panicking back at the visitor center in the security area. Samuel L. Jackson gets another sort of like famous line where he's like, I can't get Jurassic Park back online. And this is where Attenborough really sort of turns inward and his jovial nature of this character sort of drops away and he becomes sort of like very quietly mortified, but also trying to enact calm and within himself to the point where like he never wants to drop the facade in a certain degree. But like he's saying, like he's asked Muldoon, he's like, bring me back my grandchildren.
Right. That's where the facade drops, because like, let's face it, after this, he'll still go back to being a little like trying to act like, hey, theme parks all have problems starting out. But
because even later theme parks all have problems. But even later, when he doesn't know for sure that his kids are safe, he's still trying to convince himself. He's like, well, there's no one better to get him through a dinosaur park
than I think everyone knows
grandkids. Then Dr. Grant, like they're obviously they're okay because they're with him and he's the best, and so I can relax. And he's again just trying to sell himself on that story as well. Then we get a lot of basically the Grant with the kids first saving Tim from the falling car. Again, a lot of funny lines, a lot of great, just so many great lines of dialogue here between Grant and Sattler and Malcolm and even the kids. Just the even throwaway lines like, I hate trees, and she's like, I like trees. And he's like, well, you weren't in the last one. Like, that's great. Like, that is after great. What he went through, like with the falling car and trying to get out in time. And Tim gets two things dropped on him in certain ways, because at the end, it's a dinosaur rib cage that's echoing the car from earlier, where it's like it encases him but doesn't kill him.
There was besides Mazzello himself has been very funny about bringing up the Jurassic stuff, but there was also a Tim from Jurassic Park like Twitter account that at one point was very funny, that I think it was just a fan thing that was just like bringing up all like how this fucked him up for life.
Exactly. Both of them are mortified, especially at certain points. Lex is like absolutely beside herself and panicking and so scared.
He left us stuff. That's great.
It's so emotional for me. Like I just cry, and I think I probably put in my notes the next time I cry too. But yeah, like Grant leading them through things, but also like, and is it a little quick and unrealistic? I guess, but it still works. Like the effectiveness of that T-Rex scene is enough to make us in the audience buy a complete 180. Mm-hmm. he does a complete 180 in a matter of seconds, because he goes from who he is in that tour to I will stay up. I promise you, you're going to be okay. I will stay up all night. I will make sure nothing happens to you. I will not leave you. I'm promising these things. Like, it is an absolute wonderful story, but also one that is very much sold on the back of that really traumatic and effective T-Rex attack. Okay.
Well, again, I brought up the he left us thing and him saying it, but I won't. And that's just a great moment, and a great awe moment. But yeah, I think it is. It's a lot happens quickly, but him seeing what happened, how close these kids came to death. Gennaro's just been killed, and the fact that these kids, it's not just earlier when Tim was annoying and I want to sit with you. Now it's like, we will not survive without you, and emotionally and physically we will not survive without you. And he's a good person, so I can, it's under extreme circumstances, which it is, I can buy into it.
And then we sort of get basically two things that are going on that are intercutting back and forth. Well, we've got Ellie and Muldoon showing up and not finding Alan or the grandkids, but discovering Malcolm and saving him. And the second big T-Rex moment, obviously it pops up at the end. Spielberg sort of rewrote the ending because he didn't originally. The T-Rex sort of vanishes after this moment, but he's like, no, it has to come back. So the T-Rex chasing them in the Jeep as they escape. This is the biggest like example of the CGI T-Rex we get, the running and chasing, bursting through the tree. And Malcolm being like, must go faster, and getting him back, and also the official start of the sexy Ian Malcolm Goldblum sweaty chest meme, open shirt,
which we own the Funko Pop of, Matt.
And and then the rescue everyone back home except for Grant and the grandkids, and Ray Arnold's idea, like, basically we have to shut everything down and root it up, but that will also mean the raptor cages. And that's the last thing they can do. The last, actually, I don't think it was Ray's idea? It was Hammond's idea, and Ray was hesitant. Is that how it went? He was hesitant to do it, but it was really Hammond wanting to do it.
Yes. It was the whole, like, if we turn it off, can we get it back on at all?
And he's like, he's like, theoretically. So we've got that, and then we're also cutting back to Grant and the grandkids out in the wild, walking back, and the funny Brachiosaurus sneeze scene in Lex's face, who, like, everything's going wrong for poor hacker Lex.
That is a funny moment, although a smells like a studio note is the clunky, the fact that Tim says, looks like it has a cold. I'm like, I don't think Tim would have been able to spot that Brachiosaurus has a cold.
Little do you know, Eric, that there's an entire chapter in Alan Grant's book dedicated to
20 ways to identify
dinosaurs. Yeah. And so he is hyper aware of this. But yeah, it's this whole thing where the final third act goes in a completely different direction, a way more intimate, like stalked by raptors route, in a different type of fear, that because they could have just had a rampaging T-Rex the whole time. Obviously, Grant and the kids see the T-Rex out there because they get caught in like a stampede of dinosaurs. And just to remind us that the T-Rex is still out there going into any area on the island at once, it like eats up a dinosaur in front of them. But that's the other thing about this movie I love, is the third act, how it like goes inside a building and more like into suspense territory that still keeps the fear but changes the dinosaur dynamic completely, and reveals the thing that they promised from the beginning of the movie, which were the velociraptors, which it's hard to believe if you're young enough that before this movie, raptors weren't a thing. Like
they weren't. T-Rex was.
Yeah. T-Rex was, obviously, as was Stegosaurus and Triceratops and stuff like that, but raptors were not a commonly talked about.
Which is not to say the movie did not invent raptors, because later Jurassic
they did in certain ways, because real raptors, they're not similar to actual raptors in certain ways. So they did monkey around with it a bit, but
But this movie made raptors something that everyone
raptors would become part of the popular vernacular after this movie. And then we've got the scene where, so Mr. Arnold goes out to flip the breakers. He doesn't return, so then they have to lead Ellie out to do that. But then at the same time, you've got a great Spielbergian moment of like climbing the electric fence while she's bringing the system back in line. And now, speaking of things that the fake Tim Twitter account would have talked about trauma, Tim dies. So
right.
This kid dies on the island, and Alan has to bring him back to life via CPR. So,
what if the rest of the movies, the rest of this movie and the entire series is all Tim's death is Jacob's ladder scenario? To quote, how did this get made?
If Jurassic World Dominion just ends with Tim waking up instead of in a hospital after being in a coma years after being like
no, I think it cuts back to him like just dying. There.
Oh, like it's literally like he gets brought back to life briefly, but by CPR, but then he dies in Alan's arms. I like that. Okay. Yeah. So amongst everything, Tim actually, his heart stops and he dies. Okay. So yeah, great scene. But then when you pile raptors on top of that as well, because there's then we get the great sort of single jump scare of the movie when like the raptor head pops out against Ellie and she runs through the facility,
which I believe is the first time we fully see the raptor, an adult raptor. There's been so much buildup. Is that raptor bursting through behind her? That's the raptor reveal. Like, here I am. You've been hearing about me.
Hello, how you doing? Don't forget about me, the Velociraptor. And it's already killed Mr. Arnold. We already mentioned the horror movie moment with the arm, which is so great. But then Muldoon, we didn't talk about him in the beginning, talking about how the raptors are smart and they learn and they remember. And like, he's great. His delivery is great.
Which also, of course, we also had Grant's whole speech to the Dream Child being about like, you're so fixated on the raptor in front of you, you didn't notice the two to your side.
So the way that they hunt, the strategic way they hunt, the hunter himself forgets about it. And like the grin, the smirk that he has when he says "clever girl," another famous line from the movie, before getting totally his face ripped and throat ripped out by this raptor. The hunter has become the hunted, and he almost goes out. You feel like he goes out the way he wanted to, right? Like
it's a very predator moment.
Bested by a predator that's better than him, and that's his dream. Then we get the kids are back in the facility. Alan goes. He's like, "But I promise I'll be back." They start eating. We haven't talked about some of the other famous moments from this movie that involve things shaking. The footsteps of the Tyrannosaurus Rex have two shaking moments. One with
ripple
a glass
on the
water, and then another in a puddle. Right.
Yep.
Now we've got shaking Jello because she sees a raptor, and it's another great like this rule of shaking threes is wonderful. Right. It's not T-Rex that's making this shake; it's her because she is seeing the raptor
and panics.
We get the kids in the kitchen with the
kitchen. Never seen them before.
Oh, who cares? When you drop kick your raptor as you walk through the door, no one cares.
If people don't know that song, they just think we just wrote a masterpiece.
We just came up with the Mr. Belvedere theme off the top of our heads. Okay,
that's right.
And then we've got the great, way more intimate raptor stalking in the kitchen of them like shuffling,
which is a full horror movie scene in a great way.
It actually feels like what you would play now in a stealth moment from a video game. At the time, these types of video game moments didn't exist, but this like ducking behind, not drawing attention or aggro from the raptors. The moment where the raptor charges, but only charges at the reflection, is a great, just a great cinema trick. And the idea that these are smart, right? Like, so with the looking through the window, these are moments from the trailer too, but like opening the door, you just see the door handle turn, which plays off later when they're all trapped in the security room, and like you just see the door handle turning, and Ellie and Alan are trying their hardest to block that door from coming in, which I call the hacker climax of the movie, where like it's almost like it does remind me of the end of Hackers, where they're like going into having to find files in their weird cube form on
right. Also, that's the scene where Tim is so entranced by Lex and her hacking that he's not helping Ellie and Alan get the gun.
Yeah, he could have pushed it toward him or helped them hold the door or something.
Right,
but
right.
I forgive him because he died.
Sure, yeah, he did die.
He probably just thinks this is all a dream at this point. He's like, what's happening? I don't know.
No, but yeah, like also like the Raptors, and again, this was all set up earlier, but they're great leaping, and they leap onto that kitchen table for the first time.
More basically combination of people in suits and puppets and CGI that works really well.
It's so good. And again, like even that part shortly after this, when they go up into the air ducts and when Lex starts to fall and then they're pulling her through, but the raptor is not like stunned on the ground beneath her, but it leaps up right as they pull her through and almost gets her foot. Just again, like this Spielberg, he knows how to do what he's doing.
And then it all leads to the payoff of, like, we saw the giant fossils at the beginning in the center, the entrance hall to the visitor center. And so they become an action set piece at the end, climbing down the bones while the raptors
leaps onto the skeleton. That's
it's cool. Also good. Eric, did you know this was a good movie?
This is a great movie. Where this is the part where we're just like, and then
yeah. I'm kind of done because cool then we've got the when dinosaurs rule the earth banner falling. The T-Rex makes the basic, and then the thing that demonized them in the middle of the movie saves them at the end. Mm-hmm. The T-Rex comes in just wanting meat. Meat is meat, and the T-Rex has got to eat, and he kills the raptors. And
the raptors in this film will continue on, but in this movie they are the final boss villains, and the T-Rex ends up having a common foe, I guess, or coming in there and helping.
And again, like, very quiet ending, quick quiet ending after this moment, where it's just the kids asleep on Dr. Grant, right? Like they're asleep with they're asleep with who they feel safe with, and B, he doesn't mind. And so like that, the combination of that is sort of like why it's kind of like why you don't need, if you don't want to, you don't need to watch past the first movie. The first movie tells its own story, beginning to end. You don't need to go on further if you don't want to. There are sort of it's a risky middling returns going forward with what we get. Some things are pretty good, most things are kind of not, but like if you're just a fan of the whole series, why not? But the biggest argument can be made to not watch after this movie.
I mean, look, there's always going to be an innate love of seeing giant dinosaurs on screen with great effects eating people. But this is the best example of dinosaurs on screen eating people. And I'm more of a fan of some of the later movies than other people are, but nothing can equal.
I'm a defender of 3.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like 3. But I haven't seen it in a while, so maybe on this rewatch I won't like it.
And I'm a defender of Jurassic World, which is the 4th. But anyway, at the end of the day,
I always thought was okay. Yeah,
this movie is a great movie on its own, and it doesn't rely on the sequels.
I did not like Fallen Kingdom.
We'll see.
Maybe. Did I?
Yeah.
Did you like it? Tell me if you liked it. You can tell me if you liked it.
Oh no. I liked parts of it. I thought parts of it were actually really fun.
So I think overall it was not obvious as bad as the Crimes of Grindelwald, but it had a Crimes of Grindelwald feeling to me. It didn't feel like a full movie.
Okay.
It didn't feel like a concise story that benefit. It felt like a weird middle chapter in a TV series that wasn't thinking episodically. But anyway, I don't know.
Same for that episode.
I'm talking about now.
This movie is great. And just rewatching it. Like I said, I really even it was always great. But I think actually when they say what you will about the 3D cash-in of post-Avatar world, when not only were all the big movies being hastily converted to 3D, but then we got a bunch of re-releases of old movies with 3D conversions that weren't ever going to be that effective because they were not designed to be in 3D. But Jurassic Park got a 3D re-release circa 2013 or so. And I hadn't seen it in the theater forever. And Trish had never seen the movie, Matt, and went to see it. And it was just a great experience to see it in the theater. And Trish loved it and has now watched it many times. So
that's good.
That was great. A couple of things that we didn't talk about as I'm going through here. Like I said, there is the meta aspect of the fact that the Jurassic Park logo is the logo for the theme park in the movie. It's all over the Jeeps, it's all over everything. But most of all is the joke of the rows of t-shirts and
lunchboxes
and lunchboxes. That
well, like, and that's Malcolm's line, right? Like, you patented it, you put it on
a
plastic
lunchbox. Yeah. But the fact that this is a movie that was going to be accompanied by a giant merchandise line, which has continued to this day because it's a hugely successful franchise. The Jurassic Park logo shirt is so popular to this day. If you go to Universal or Disneyland, because some people just wear whatever shirt they like, you will just constantly see people wearing that Jurassic Park logo.
It's kind of like the Austin 316 shirt of movies.
Yeah.
Where you still people at wrestling events, 2 decades later wearing it. Yeah.
Right. So that was just like a fun meta aspect. I know some people will be like, oh, they're having their cake and eating it too because they're making fun of the merchandise. They're doing merchandise. They are, but it's still fun.
Hammond 316 says spared no expense.
That's right. It'll always bug me that Hammond fucks up the year Disneyland opened, but hey, I guess it's just Hammond. Is it a continuity error or is it just Hammond? Because he says 1956 and opened 1955. What are you gonna do? And Malcolm,
maybe that was the year he went, and he doesn't consider it having opened until he experienced it.
Sure. Malcolm, is trying to give him a great line about Pirates of the Caribbean, and has been injured. But I wish he'd also said, and it opened a year earlier, you idiot. And then we should mention, just because I, as far as I remember, but I could be wrong, it never comes up in the sequels, which again is one reason to think of this movie as its own thing. The lysine contingency.
How they can't produce a certain amino acid and all that. Yeah,
right. And mostly because I do think it's kind of dropped in the sequels, but also it's worth noting because it does at least acknowledge what happens if they get off the island. What do you do besides the fact that they can't breed? Well, they still could do a lot of damage.
Maybe the lysine contingency was something that was small and pellet size and could fit, and Dennis stole it, and it's in that shaving cream can, and it got buried. And it got buried.
And you can look, because by the end of this movie, we know they are breeding. That has, Malcolm was right. Life finds a way. You can't control, genetics to this scale. So the lysine contingency probably wouldn't even matter for the dinosaurs that are being, born, that weren't even supposed to be born. But
we tried the lysine contingency. Turns out they didn't like it.
Right.
And they willed themselves out of it. But stop boning.
But speaking to your saying, hey, if Nedry hadn't fucked things up, things would have been okay. It is at least good that the first movie acknowledges hey, if one of these suckers gets off the island.
Well, and speaking to that, I hate that I'm poking even the smallest hole in this movie, which is stupid, which is when they find the eggs and they're like, wow, are they breeding? And it's oh, the frog DNA, there are some amphibians that can switch sexes. You think the think tank of the world's smartest geneticists would have figured that out. Right. That hey, if we give people frog DNA, give these things frog DNA, they're going to switch sexes.
It's, like you said, the whole, perfect movie thing. Of course, every movie you can
I
find.
Don't care. I don't care that exists.
So there's a couple of clunky exposition lines in this movie, to be sure, and a couple silly things, like I said, that dinosaur looks like it has a cold. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because while there might be movies that have better quote unquote stories than this one, this is one just so expertly made. It accomplishes everything it's trying to do to such a amazing scale. And kind of one of, Spielberg has made great movies since then, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of the last of him doing this kind of I can just deliver on this level, just
yeah. And
this kind of spectacle.
Arguments can be made for he's if we're talking just action movies or something like that, Minority Report and War of the Worlds have their moments.
I think he's made many great movies,
but also those are darker stories in some regard.
They are more nuanced, and I'm not saying that as a knock on Jurassic Park. It's they're doing something different than Jurassic
but also
Park.
to be a movie that is infinitely rewatchable is such a hard thing to achieve. That this is a movie you can throw on at any time and have a great time rewatching.
Yep.
And that's what that's the highest compliment of all. That's better than an Oscar. That's anything. Just to be able to be this impactful and this enjoyable and to be able to stand the test of time in the way it can. Anyway, I wanted to end on that note instead of us ending on tearing.
No, 100%. Rewatching this movie is always a pleasure. I rewatched it this morning and I just was freaking Jurassic Park. It's the best. Yeah.
All right. And that's our take on what turns out to be a great movie, Jurassic Park. Until next time with The Lost World, Jurassic Park, everything is possible, but nothing is real. Life finds a way. And Shakma.